Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. Welcome to another edition of the ODPH. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And joining us in studio yet again, it's your coach. It's our coach. It's the coach, Coach Duffy.
I would say throw it to Odell, but they did that, and it didn't matter.
There was only so much they could do in that game, and we're going to talk about that a little later in the show. But let's hashtag it up, folks, ODPH, because we got a lot of sports to talk about. Break down our locks and leaps for this past week. Pad, kick us off.
I mean, I don't mean to pump my own ego a little bit, but your boy went 2-0 again this week. Took the Carolina Panthers to beat the Baltimore Ravens. It's something I know, Ken, you have said to me over the years. If a home team is ever underdogs at their own house, something's up. And, of course, if you listen to last week's episode, I forget what the exact point total was, but nonetheless, Carolina was underdogs in their own house.
It was a weird setup. But like I tell you, if a home team is a dog, you always take the dog. That's how it goes. And Cam Newton definitely stepped up to the challenge. I'm telling you, they're flying. I don't want to say they're flying under radars, but everybody talks about it in the NFC. Oh, the Rams and Aaron Rodgers. Cam Newton and the Panthers are quietly winning.
It's almost akin to Golden State last year in the NBA, where everyone kind of figured they'd do well, but you really didn't hear about them a lot just because everything James Harden and Russell Westbrook and all the other teams were doing, that they really flew under a lot of radars. Carolina, same thing. I mean, we're sitting here. You look at the NFL standings over in the NFC conference, and they are currently sitting in second place at 5-2 behind the New Orleans Saints, who are 6-1.
Yeah, they're right in there. And like I said, that division is far from being locked up, too.
And you talk about a Carolina team, too, that's won games. You know, we always question Carolina's kind of toughness, you know, with what they can do as far as winning close games. But this year, I mean, they've had only the one blowout here to the Ravens, where they blew out the Ravens. But all these other games have been within 5-7 points.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're winning games close. And that's what good teams need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially when they're pulling that off, that always helps to build the confidence of that team. Because especially beating the Ravens, who lost a heartbreaker to the Saints the week prior, to come into Carolina, I mean, obviously they got to get back on the winning track, especially with how crazy the AFC Central was, or the AFC North rather, and how quickly that division flipped. Pittsburgh didn't even have to play a game, and they went from third to first.
Yeah,
in one day.
I mean, just how wild is that? But then for Carolina, I mean, they definitely want to stay in the race for the NFC South. And Cam Newton going 21 for 29, 219 and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 52 and a touchdown too. They were clicking at the right time. Greg Olson's back. That helps.
That
huge.
helps a ton.
Oh yeah.
Offensively, they're a totally different team with Greg Olson back in the lineup, and they're getting McCaffrey the ball in space where he needs it.
Yep.
Similar to how the Giants run Barkley. I mean, they could take a lot of notes with how they use McCaffrey because they can get him in space.
Yeah.
And when he's in space, he's very, very dangerous.
It's a scary thing, too, because Norv Turner is still their offensive coordinator. And he is he's such an offensive-minded genius.
Yeah.
And to see what he now has with a mobile quarterback. This was one thing at the beginning of the year that I thought maybe there would be some problems, just, the transition.
Well, I thought the biggest thing was going to be they didn't have a wide receiver anymore.
No.
I mean, Benjamin obviously has had some highs and lows in his career, but he was coming off a pretty solid year last year with Carolina and, was becoming, his favorite target.
Yeah.
And now you trade that away, and then who do they really have for a wide receiver that you could say is like a number one threat?
Yeah, they don't.
There are certainly names you recognize, but there's nothing that really, like, if you're getting ready to do your fantasy football draft, like you're looking at all right, I need to draft a wide receiver. There's not really a Carolina wide receiver that's really jumping out at you going, oh, gosh, I need this guy.
No, after Greg Olson, I mean, they drafted DJ Moore, who, I mean, he had 5 receptions for 90 yards. He finally had, I would say, a breakout game to really kind of get himself integrated in the offense. Because I think once he gets to play a bigger role in there, they're really going to have a true offensive weapon there.
Yeah.
Because Moore is very, very good. But like I said, he's a rookie. It takes time getting used to the system. So once they get everything clicking there with McCaffrey on the run game, they're going to be a scary team to face.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, they don't get a lot of hype. I mean, we talk about Aaron Rodgers. We talk about the LA Rams. We talk about the Saints. Carolina is in there, and they're one of those teams that they're not flashy.
No.
They're not really anything that you really kind of go, oh, really get scared about playing. But I tell you, they show up and they ball out.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the NFC conference standings. They're currently in 4th place, tied, though, with the Washington Redskins, who have the same record right ahead of them. So they're right in it.
Yeah, they're right in it. I mean, going down the stretch, it's going to be really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. My lock was the Los Angeles Rams beating the Green Bay Packers. I took them. I've been riding them the last couple of weeks. I remember last week the line was the Rams by 9.5. I thought no way, shape, or form would that be the final score, and I was right. Final score was 29-27 with Jared Goff going 19 of 35 for 295 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Bad beat in Vegas. Mm-hmm. Bad beat.
Yep.
I tell you, it's just another thing that the Rams, I mean, they're really proven to be the real deal. Because like I said last week, going up against Aaron Rodgers, that was going to be the real test.
Yeah.
Because Rodgers, and give credit to where credit is due, this game honestly sounded like Lambeau West. With just how many Packer fans were there and just everybody cheering for Rodgers.
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, this looked like a Green Bay and felt like a Green Bay home game. I mean, the way they were playing, too.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the score at halftime, it was 10-8 Packers, which is kind of wild to think. But then as the second half kicked in, that's when, the Rams really got rocking and rolling. Once they got Gurley going, that helped out a lot. And they just really started slowing down Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying they shut him down by any means.
No.
Because, Rodgers still threw for 286 and a touchdown. But once Goff got going and Gurley got going, then they become the scary team that everybody doesn't want to face in the playoffs.
So it's almost like Gurley came out of the locker room at halftime and just went, yo, give me the ball. Because you look at his stats. I mean, he went 25 carries for 114 rushing yards and then 6 catches for 81 yards receiving. 1 receiving touchdown, no rushing touchdowns. Dude went beast mode.
Yeah, and that's what they need him to do.
Yeah, offensively, they need to get him involved because even though Goff has won, a game by himself this year, being able to carry them on the back, it's Gurley that's going to get this team anywhere as far as the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they live and die by Gurley.
I was like, Goff is good, but he's at this point in his career, he's no guy that, you fear having the football with, 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
But he's getting better to the point where you are starting to pay more attention to him. That's one thing.
Yes.
Gurley takes a lot of pressure off him.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
And you see the emergence of Robert Woods as a true number one. It's looking like for the Rams.
Yeah.
That's helping out tremendously, too, for Goff. Because now it's getting into situations where if he has to get into a shootout, I would say he's feeling a little more comfortable about pulling that win off.
Right. You definitely have the feeling that Goff is getting a little more comfortable if they're down late or, like you said, they're in a shootout. Because you look at their receiving, they've got arguably 3 number 1 receivers. I mean, you got Todd Gurley, who's obviously on paper, he is a running back. He's not a receiver. But when he lines up receiver, you can pretty much peg him as a number 1 receiver. But then again, they've also got Brandon Cooks and the aforementioned Robert Woods. I mean, I'm sorry. If you're lining with those 3 guys in a wide receiver slot, who am I covering here? Because they're all going to run past me.
Yeah, I mean, they just go to show that they really have got all the offensive weapons to really make a run late in the playoffs and to match the defense's intensity.
Now, a guy that you would fear having the ball under 2 minutes didn't get his opportunity to have that ball under 2 minutes in this game.
This is true.
And that was a smart move by the Rams.
Well, Ty Montgomery dropping that fumble was out of the end zone. Created a lot of controversy in Green Bay right now.
Yeah, that helped a lot. But still, the Rams did enough that they had a really strong win. I mean, I'm just trying to think of another way to describe it, but there really isn't. It's that was just a strong win for a team that really needs that kind of wins going into the playoffs. Because, I mean, like I said, they're still undefeated.
Yeah, and there's no way to know, even if Aaron Rodgers had the ball, if Ty Montgomery didn't fumble trying to return it out of the end zone, what they would have done with it. I mean, the Rams defense was playing well at that point and had made adjustments that they needed to slow down Aaron Rodgers. So,
yeah, going from there, it's going to be really scary to see where they go next for the Rams because now they've beaten an elite quarterback. This is a tremendous confidence boost. And to see where they go from here, it's going to be truly something. So going into my lock, dare I say, it didn't almost happen, but the Cincinnati Bengals found a way to stop Fitzmagic.
Oh, Fitzmagic.
Because it came back in a very improbable way because Jameis Winston, 4 interceptions on Sunday.
4 interceptions.
Holy good gracious. If you started him in fantasy, I am so sorry for you.
I mean, this is just one of the more puzzling things because Winston is a good quarterback, but he's definitely not playing like one this season.
This is almost like Space Jam where, the NBA stars get their talent stolen and the Monstars take it. But in this case, it's Jameis Winston and Ryan Fitzpatrick stealing each other's talent because Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jameis was obviously out with the suspension. Ryan Fitzpatrick tore it up. And then he had a bad game, and Jameis came in for him, and they started Jameis. And now Jameis is having a bad game, and Ryan's back in.
Yeah, it's just one of the good things, I guess, when you have two quarterbacks that are adequate enough at the position that they can win you ball games.
Mm-hmm.
But Winston definitely is not up to snuff this season.
No,
I'm just sorry to say.
Something's up. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just something mentally, like, it's a mental block or something, but, who knows what it is.
It's going to be something Tampa Bay has to figure out. But now they've announced that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the starter for next week's game.
I mean, how do you not start him?
No, you have to.
They were down at one point 26-0.
Yeah.
And he brought them back in that game slowly and surely. Even after Cincinnati still scored 2 more touchdowns, they still got back in the game led by Fitzpatrick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one thing, too. I mean, Cincinnati gave them enough chance to get off the hook. I mean, they were out to a huge lead. And like you said, it was like 27-9 at halftime. And I thought the game was going to be pretty much a wrap. And then just slowly but surely, the Buccaneers came back.
Say it's one of those games that like a lot of fans might have turned the game off at halftime. Like, all right, 27-9, this one's over.
All of a sudden, update.
Yeah, the ESPN app's going off on their phone. They're getting the updates. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I got to flip the game back over.
Yeah, and it's something that watching Tampa Bay, I mean, they really rally around Fitzpatrick. You can definitely see that offense is clicking when he's on the field. I don't see that with Winston. I really don't.
No, the offense kind of just comes to a halt, I mean, and it's something about like them, the team around Fitzpatrick that they just, the Fitz magic, they just, you can see a little more energy, a little more life. And not to say that Winston's causing that because, I mean, obviously he's been a very good teammate. You haven't heard the locker room issues where, especially a young quarterback who gets benched for an older quarterback, you hear that controversy of the trouble in the locker room. But, I mean, obviously these guys want to play for Fitzmagic because you can see it on the field. You can see the work that they're putting in when he comes in the game.
Well, plus look back at the one game where he came out to the post-game press conference in the
Conor
conference room,
McGregor
and he
looking
like Conor McGregor. And how many players were, teammates were sticking their head out of the door in there with their phones out, taking pictures, laughing.
Well, that's just what you need to do. A veteran just came in there, and obviously when you were doing the quarterback transition, and it's a new guy in there, not used to playing with him. This is just something to kind of break the ice and kind of just say, hey, I'm here. Let's have some fun. Let's go win some games.
Plus, the thing with Fitzpatrick is he's really a journeyman quarterback. So, he's at a point in his career where it's like, I have a job. I'm happy. Let's go. He's taking it seriously, but I think he's a little more easygoing than, Jameis Winston might be, where Jameis Winston might have the mindset where he's, I'm the franchise guy. I'm the guy they drafted. I'm the future. I'm the, face of this franchise. Whereas Fitzpatrick's, hey, I'm here.
Well, Fitzpatrick is smart enough to know that, and he knows his role on the team, but he knows when he gets in there, he's trying to make the most of the situation he's in. And you could definitely tell because, he got the ball to Mike Evans and O.J. Howard. They really started clicking in there, and they came back all the way to tie it with, just under a minute left. And, kudos to the Bengals. They found a way to win. Obviously, it was not a pretty game. It was a wild game, if you ask me. But Andy Dalton, throwing for 280 and 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon running for 123 and 2 touchdowns. And Tyler Boyd, who has really stepped up and been a breath of fresh air for the Bengals. So it's not all on A.J. Green. 9 receptions, 138 yards, and 1 touchdown. And especially setting up the late-minute field goal to ice the game for him. This is something for the Bengals that obviously Tampa Bay, I wouldn't say is a great team.
No.
They're a good team, but they're not great. But for the Bengals to stay competitive in that AFC North, they need to step up and they need to make sure they win the games they should.
Well, they got to get wins now because Pittsburgh's coming on very strong after that early season, pace that they had. Now they're coming on real strong especially after the bye week. They looked really good. So Cincinnati, they got to get wins when they get wins. I mean, they can't let them go by.
Right, Cincinnati, they know that division. They know, all right, we can't rest on our laurels. We got to go full throttle, pedal to the metal, especially when, and this is especially true now that like we mentioned before, last week, Pittsburgh went from 3rd to 1st without playing a game.
Yeah, it's just wild to see how the season's shaping up. But for Cincinnati, they need to really find their identity in a very highly contested AFC North.
Well, I think it's good too for AJ Green or for Andy Dalton to be able to have a kind of performance that he did talking about 280 yards and really leading the team. Even with Mixon still having a good performance, though, for Dalton to come out and be able to drive the team down the field. Obviously they had that big pass to A.J. Green that helped set up the field goal that, had they not thrown that, maybe they wouldn't have gotten the field goal. But, Dalton did lead the team down the field, so that's good for him from a standpoint of showing that he can do it.
Yeah, because he's going to need to do it later on in the season. They're going to start getting into those highly contested games inside the division. They need to win if they're going to really make a run to the playoffs.
And that's always been their question mark is can they win close games? And now Dalton has one under his belt.
He has one under the belt. The team, obviously there's still some young talent on that team too because like I said, Boyd and Mixon are relatively new to the league. But for them to have a big game, this is only a feather in their cap moving forward because obviously as we talked about, Pittsburgh is getting hot at the right time.
Yeah.
Now, Coach Duffy's lock has not played yet as we were recording. We don't need to discuss who he took. No, we're just going to leave that one blank.
Future me says that I won.
Yes.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
I will have to agree with that because obviously he took the Patriots, and we don't need to discuss that right now. But we're going to take a quick break and talk about his leap, my leap. You are listening to the ODPH. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack, taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Come back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH, and we're talking those locks and leaps, but we were talking about the leap that was not the leap this week. Coach, why don't you lead us into this?
So Ken and I, we took the Browns. We took that leap, and we failed.
Yeah, we failed badly.
What can you say about this team? Obviously, you knew that there was going to be some growing pains coming into the year for this team, but, all that hard knocks, mojo was around this team, and you felt good, especially after that week 1 performance against the Steelers at home. You thought, especially like I said last week with that point spread, 8 points, you thought Cleveland on the road, they would come back and fight a little bit, but fortunately, Pittsburgh's fight was a little bit bigger.
A little bit.
It definitely was, but Pittsburgh is clicking at the right time. And obviously, the Le'Veon Bell factor is not a factor right now. James Conner is having a monster season thus far.
I would say that he probably put whatever drama around Bell, probably, especially after the bye week, and they just hushed all that up in the locker
I think
room.
he's also put any trepidation or concern fans and ownership and coaches might have with no Le'Veon Bell to side because it's what? Multiple games with like 100 yards rushing for him.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they use him in the same way they use Bell. So why even worry? At this point, you would think week 8 into the season, it's like, Bell who at this point?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's no point for him to come back this season. Obviously, if he sat out this long and for whatever reason, and whatever side of the fence you're on about his argument, if I'm on Pittsburgh, I'm saying stay home.
Yeah.
We're winning without you. We're finding ways to do this.
If it were a situation where like he was getting like 5 yards a game, and there was absolutely nothing, they'd be begging and crying and calling for him to come back. But they were, like you said, 24 carries, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. His longest was 30, and he averaged 6 yards a carry. You don't really need him.
Well, not even just, after the first game, like if you would have had to obviously play the first game without Bell, okay, then the adjustment thereafter. If you had to change the offense because of because of Connor's playing style, then I understand, all right, hey, Le'Veon, our offense was kind of built and systematically around what you and Antonio Brown do. But then you plug Connor in, and you don't change a thing. So for Big Ben, this is huge because now he literally has to do nothing differently than what he was doing for the last 4 years when Bell was in the lineup. So, and it's an unfortunate thing because Le'Veon Bell is obviously one of the premier runners in the NFL, and you definitely want to have the best players in the league. But at the end of the day, when you got a rookie who's coming in right now and playing lights out like this, if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm saying, okay, it is what it is.
Yeah, and they have enough veteran leadership on that team that they know the deal.
Exactly.
And they're stepping up to the occasion. And especially one thing that is kind of, I don't want to say it's flying under the radar because it really isn't, but they're getting Antonio Brown the ball. And he's finally now really finding his place in the offense this season.
Yeah. Especially the first 2 weeks, like they said, there was just a disconnect with the Wi-Fi, and now that the Wi-Fi has been unplugged, you hold it for 5 seconds, and then you plug it back in. Now the router's reset; they're good to go.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because, like you said, everybody was writing him off at the beginning of the year, and it's like you can't really do it. It's just there was some stuff going on that was very un-Pittsburgh-like.
Right.
That you just don't hear when you start hearing the locker room start arguing. But this goes to show you how well they run their organization because they have veteran leaders that are kind of just quieting that noise, getting back to basics, and doing what they need to do. I mean, Roethlisberger thrown for 257, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but hey, it happens. And Brown with 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is the Steelers of old.
And this is a solid. This is a good Cleveland Brown defense compared to what they've had.
Oh yeah, no question.
So to put up 33 and have Connor, who prior to this, the Browns hadn't given up 100 yards rushing besides Week 1 to Connor, I believe.
Yeah.
To give that up at 146 a clip, I mean that just shows that Pittsburgh's reinvesting in running the ball, and he can do it.
Yeah, and it goes to show that they're getting on the right track at the right time.
Exactly.
And that's going to be scary for every team they have to face moving forward. I mean, barring any injuries happening, Pittsburgh is now getting back to Pittsburgh football.
Right. I mean, I look at their schedule the next couple of weeks. They play Baltimore, Carolina, Jacksonville, and Denver Broncos.
No easy games there.
No.
But to see that they're clicking at the right time is scary for any opponent they're facing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take a look at the Browns situation, and well, stuff happened after the game that we're going to dig into just a little bit. But Mayfield did not play the worst, didn't play the best.
I mean, he played about as well as I would expect a rookie quarterback to play in his first year.
Yeah, especially with how Pittsburgh's defense has turned it around. Because those first few weeks, Pittsburgh's defense was terrible. They were Swiss cheese. But they've very much tightened things up.
Yeah, and I mean, they made enough adjustments. I mean, like I said, he threw for 180, but 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, in his first starting game, did 18 carries for 65 yards. So, I mean, they weren't as bad as the paper would say, so to speak, as you're looking, doing the eye test. Obviously, they had some kicking issues. I know their kicker missed a field goal that would put them up 9-3 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But the Browns are going to go through a little transition stage at this point because as we were recording, news has broke that they have fired head coach Hugh Jackson and offensive coordinator Todd Haley.
Yep.
So thoughts around the panel on that?
I mean, I'm surprised it took them this long because, I mean, if you're listening to the show, you know what Hugh Jackson's record is. How he made it out of the first, 2 years is beyond me. When you go 2 years and you go 1-15 and 0-16, I'm sorry, any other pro team or college team, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like it made no sense to me. I did not understand it. And Todd Haley, I mean, I can see that. I mean, their offense hasn't been the greatest, but I kind of chalk that up to it's a young team, it's a young quarterback. But, I mean, they made their decision. We'll see where it goes.
I mean, for me, especially after watching this season with Hard Knocks, I felt like now that this is Dorsey's, basically his first full year of a team that he's been able to go out and get, and they've kind of started to become the catalyst for changing from, the eyeball test to more now using the analytical system. That's what Dorsey brought in this year. I think that it's an interesting thing to fire Jackson. I know the performance on the field hasn't been there, but my God, the crop of talent that he has had to even have 3 wins is impressive. Because at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to fire the coach than the players, but you got to at least give him players to perform, and they haven't done that yet.
It's something that it's kind of catch-22 in my book. Because obviously his pedigree from when he started with Cleveland to when he was fired, not the best record in sports by any stretch of the imagination. And obviously with Dorsey bringing in the talent that he has, you have to give it time to develop. But I guess it's kind of like, okay, where do we see the direction of the franchise going? And if they don't think it's with Jackson and company, then yeah, they got to make changes. I mean, I think it was a little, I don't want to say, premature, but I think obviously knowing his track record, they felt that if they're going to salvage the season, they need to do something crazy and radical right now.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the team statistics. In total team offense in the NFL, Cleveland is ranked 18th. And then in total team defense, Cleveland is ranked 28th.
And I mean, you're talking about a team that for the last 10 years has won a collective of what, like 5 games?
Not
even. I mean, now they have 2 this year and a tie.
Yeah.
I mean, this already is improvement. What more can you ask for a guy to do. Now, obviously, from Hard Knocks, we had seen that there was a little bit of, I mean, at least you could kind of feel the controversy brewing with him and Todd Haley, which, to me, I'm surprised Haley didn't get let go sooner because he has been a headache wherever he has gone, and that is track record. I mean, Big Ben wanted him out of Pittsburgh. Then they, went to Arizona. They wanted him out of there. Went to Tennessee. He got booted out of there. So everywhere he's gone, he's created that kind of controversy with especially a quarterback. So Haley, I kind of thought that's not surprising.
No.
Hugh, though, I feel like given more time and maybe a little bit more of talent that it could have been. Obviously, there's rumors coming out now that him and Baker weren't seeing eye to eye, which is crazy to me because to me it's probably more of like Baker wanting to play and just maybe not having the patience to wait. But I thought they handled his situation right because Tyrod was playing well up until he got hurt. Obviously, Baker came in and won that game, which is tremendous. But at the end of the day, you got to have the relationship with your number one quarterback, and if you don't have it, you're going to get booted.
Right. I mean, the news came down, and as we said, General Manager John Dorsey said, quote, "What we're trying to do is create the best environment moving forward, not only for the players, but for the coaching staff." Okay. Yeah. I get that. That's your typical PR answer to the news. But the one that kind of made me raise my eyebrow was the team owner Jimmy Haslam saying, quote, "We're in a better place today than we were yesterday." Really? That bar's real low, sir.
It's always kind of messy when owners are making comments like that, no matter when it is. For me, I just think that's a bad look. But obviously, he's trying to say, okay, we're going to start with a whole fresh slate. We have the new GM. We're going to find a way to right the ship and find something. My only fear with this move, though, and I got to agree with the coach. I mean, getting rid of Haley, I don't struggle with. He's has the reputation of being hard to work with. Does everybody remember where Hugh Jackson started?
No.
Coach?
Cincinnati?
Offensive coordinator
in Cincinnati, right?
Yeah. Who did he develop? Andy Dalton?
Andy Dalton. And he had a couple years with Carson Palmer, too.
All right. So, obviously, he has a good record of developing quarterbacks. Now, if he was on a true disconnect from Baker, okay, you have to move him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just know that ship is not going to sail no matter what you're doing on it, then you have to cut ties and start over.
Yeah.
Obviously, though, it's kind of a little crazy to me thinking that, with Hugh's success with Andy Dalton and making him into a very good quarterback, that you wouldn't want to try, like I said, keeping Jackson on maybe a game or two more and see. But obviously from what we're getting, the vibe that I'm getting from this story is there was a complete disconnect.
Well, and it's really crazy, too, because the rumors had came out Sunday afternoon. ESPN was reporting that Todd Haley might have been on the outs. And Hugh was even asked about it in the press conference. So for both of them to end up getting fired that same day is crazy. I mean, you never see two coaches get fired within the season.
I was going to say not within the season, postseason, yes.
Postseason, sure.
Yeah,
but
postseason,
you never see the head coach, offensive coordinator, or defensive coordinator, both two at the same time. You never see that. So now you're looking at a Cleveland team right now without a head coach. Now they have Greg Williams in place there as the defensive coordinator. That's obviously probably got to be your leading candidate,
that's my guess.
Even though with Bountygate hanging over his head. So now there's controversy there too.
Yeah.
But if he's the interim, I don't think that bothers him. I wouldn't struggle with that as much.
No.
I mean, to me, it's like, okay, I understand that Bountygate was a thing, but it's over with. Come on.
That's the thing. I mean,
it'll get a mention, but people won't devote entire segments on sports shows to it.
I'd be surprised.
No, there'll be some sizzle with that steak, but there's not going to be enough to make it a full course meal.
The thing of it is, though, is he might be the interim head coach. I can't see him wanting to be the full-time head coach because there have been plenty of opportunities, over the years where if he really wanted to jump ship wherever he was and be a head coach, he could have done it.
And let me throw something out there, too. You have a brand new GM that if he's making this move mid-season, he's a smart guy. Do you think he does not have somebody in mind at some point to take over the reins make this move? Like, just for how precise this was. You got rid of the head coach. You got rid of the offensive coordinator. You don't have somebody in the back of your mind that you're like, you know what, if I bring him in? I'm
thinking of one name, and it just popped into my head because I know he's currently not doing anything. Now, I don't know whatever he wants to do personally, but name literally just popped in my head. There's one former coach who's currently not doing anything, sitting at home by the name of Les Miles. Let me just throw that one out there. He's not doing anything. He's not coaching. He was coaching LSU, but he left LSU, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
Not doing anything these days.
With no NFL experience, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's rolling the dice, folks. That's our Padawan.
To me, I think that if it's anybody, he's probably going to be looking at somebody with either some sort of head coaching experience to come in and take this team over. To me, somebody that would pop out outside of like a Josh McDaniels, which obviously he's now the heir apparent in New England, is somebody like maybe Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, given the situation and climate that it is there right now.
Real cold.
Yeah, very cold, quite literally and figuratively. So there's a lot of controversy there. I think Saban's name will probably pop up here as well.
Yeah, Saban's name will pop up for every head coaching vacancy from now till he retires.
I think this one, though, like Ken said, will have a little more sizzle to it, though, because I think he's going to like the attractiveness of having a young quarterback that he can kind of breed, and especially a quarterback similar to what he's used to in Baker. I think will kind of breed a little bit more, breath to it. Outside of that, though, I really don't know anybody else who would look attractive right now because it's just so early in the season.
Yeah.
Let me throw a name at you because I put some thought into this one. Dorsey comes from the Kansas City Chiefs organization, correct?
Correct.
Indeed.
Who is the Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator?
I have no idea.
Eric Bieniemy.
Okay.
So let me throw that name out there.
He did get some interviews during the offseason. He was once Josh McDaniels stepped down, pulled his name out of candidacy, he did get a couple interviews with some of those jobs that were open.
Because obviously they see the job that he's done with Patrick Mahomes. So
that's very true.
So if you're going to play connect the dots, in my unofficial ODPH guess, that's the guy they're eyeing.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Dorsey, I'm not looking for somebody in college. I'm 100% looking for a coordinator. Yeah. I don't think outside of grabbing Saban, I don't think that you're interested in any single coach without NFL experience with this team and this roster.
No, definitely not. I mean, Pat had a good guess. I mean, it would be a definite long shot, but he's somebody that could be definitely in the mention just because we have.
I'm also not jumping out on any limbs. I mean, you're going to hear the Bill Cowher name thrown out there again.
Well,
you'll
hear the name get thrown, but I think he's happy doing TV. Like I don't see him coming back.
The other name that might be interesting too is Harbaugh, though, out of Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, that could be a definite one too. I wouldn't doubt that happening either. I just don't see it with the Browns. I think that with Dorsey, he's smart enough to go get somebody that he knows and bring in his guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if that's because like I said, he was getting interviews once McDaniel pulled out. So, I mean, there is interest in him. I just think for Dorsey, given the way that things are right now, that he would want more of an established guy, especially a guy like a Harbaugh who has worked with quarterbacks before, given the fact that he was one. And obviously, I know that he loves having the reign and the pull that he does in Michigan, but being able to say, like, come here and, breed this team, build it in your own image, I think would be pretty attractive.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because they're young.
Yeah, there's so many different ways they can go with this. For the Browns, I don't consider the season a loss, though. I think, if anything, it's a nice learning curve for Baker and the boys. Because at this stage, they were kind of playing with house money because nobody really expected him to do that much except me. I had him going to the playoffs if you listen to the previous show.
I just think it's so, I mean, to hear that you fire two coaches mid-season, especially, I mean, is it a bye week next week for them? I mean, to go into the bye week here without, identifying a coach and to fire two coaches, that's just, to me, is like, you obviously have to have something in mind because you wouldn't pull the trigger on that unless you knew that you had something in your back pocket because this is Dorsey's job, too, at the end of the day.
Their bye week isn't until week 11.
Oh, my God.
So for him to do something this drastic, there must have been something going on.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I mean,
Lord have mercy.
People, hold your breath here. It's Monday and the Cleveland Browns don't have a head coach.
It's Monday. The Cleveland Browns don't have a head coach, and I just looked at who their opponent is next week. Kansas City.
Oh, God.
At home.
Well,
that game didn't matter where it was played.
This is going to get interesting. It'll be a true test for what the Browns are made of this season.
Hey, I know it's not locks and leaps yet, but I know my lock, Kansas City, by infinity.
Yeah, by like Alabama Crimson Tide scores.
They're not even seeing the point spread, folks. We'll have to wait and see. But let us know what you think of the whole situation in Cleveland. Are you thinking they made the right decision? Should they have waited to make the coaching change? Who knows? But we want to know from you. Hashtag it up, ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for segment number 3 on this week's ODPH, and we got to talk some MMA because there was some history made over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Dare I say we're talking trades between organizations.
Yeah, we are.
This is the wildest thing to me. Like, being a longtime MMA fan, to hear about trades.
Even with air quotation marks.
Yeah.
I mean, quotes around that.
Mind-blowing to me. Because when I first heard of who was involved, I'm going, okay, there's no way. And then I'm hearing the UFC is talking about, like, a sign and trade. Like, I mean, I don't even know how you would describe it per se. Pat, do you want to break it down for us?
I mean, yeah, the news came down late last week that the UFC was going to let Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson go from his contract so that he could fight with One Championship, another MMA company. So that and then that company would let what's the fighter's name?
Funky Ben Askren.
They would let him go from his contract so that he could fight with the UFC. Now, this isn't an official trade in the way that, like, you know, the Cleveland Cavaliers might trade with, like, the Milwaukee Bucks or something like that. No, this is just two companies letting guys go so that the other companies can sign them. Like Ken said, this is unprecedented, and I got the notifications on my phone when this happened, and I'm like, wait, they're doing what now?
Yeah, this is wild to me. Coach, do you want to get a word in before I go off on this?
Well, I just thought it was so interesting because obviously the news broke, and I mean, it was across the wire. I mean, ESPN was covering this pretty much the moment it broke. So, I mean, it was, you know, wire-to-wire news there, and it's such a weird and odd concept. The fact that two organizations were like, yeah, man, go ahead, you can leave, but, you know, if you're going to sign with these people, we're going to want something back.
I mean, it really says something about how unique and kind of out of left field as this is when you have longtime MMA reporters like Ariel Helwani genuinely confuzzled.
Yeah, I mean, and it just shows Dana White as a businessman. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
You know, this is wild to me on many levels, and I'm just going to break this down, so bear with me, folks.
I'll turn my mic off. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay. You have Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson.
One of the GOATs.
One of the GOATs. Arguably, before his last fight, was the pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet. Now, he fights at a smaller weight class. I guess that's the only knock you could say I guess if you have to find a knock on him, because the flyweight division in the UFC is a good division, but it's not one that moves the needle.
It's all right, but you're not exactly writing home to your friends going, oh my gosh, they're fighting this weekend. We got to get it.
But to see the skill level that Demetrius possesses, and I'm just saying this, go YouTube, go Google, find fights that he has been in. He has always competed to the very end. I mean, I've seen him do anything from a judo toss into a arm bar, which is still one of the wildest moves I have ever seen in an MMA fight, period. He is a guy that just keeps going for the win no matter what, no matter who he's against, and he wasn't somebody that just laid and prayed, so to speak, on somebody. He is somebody that tried getting the win, and he tried doing a lot for the lower weight classes. I mean, I think the only knock that he had is he's not exactly the most charismatic guy. He's not like an Uriah Faber. He's not a Conor McGregor. He's not somebody that's going to go leave these massive soundbite interviews. He is somebody that goes in, and if you're a true fan of the sport, you know that he is arguably in the GOAT conversation.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that his skill set is arguably unmatched for the time he's been in the cage. He can do stuff that people don't normally see. His speed is something that gives problems. His only losses he's had has been at 135 against Dominic Cruz. But take nothing away. This is Cruz before his knees were all types of messed up.
Yeah.
So to see this move happen, especially after his last fight, which it was a highly contested fight, just to see him go into another organization it's wild to me. And then let alone you have Ben Askren coming to the UFC.
Yep.
Now, I have nothing against Ben Askren. If you don't know who he is arguably the best welterweight on the planet in wrestling that you'll ever see. And he can dominate fights. We talk about Khabib's grappling. We talk about other fighters that have, get a fighter on the ground and they don't get back up. Askren, if he takes you down, you're not getting up. This is something like we talk when Damian Maia gets your back or he takes you to the ground, you don't survive.
Oh, yeah.
Jacare Souza, same thing. If Askren takes you down, the fight is done. He'll end it by strikes. I don't really think he does too many submissions. He's currently 18-0-1. He does not lose. He has that elite grappling skill. His only knock is he is not a, dare I say, flashy fighter in the sense of you know what you're going to get out of him. Can you stop the takedown? If you can't, you're done. If you don't have any type of takedown defense, you're in trouble. And dare I say, Dana White has always been extremely reluctant to bring him to the UFC.
Dana White has him blocked on Twitter.
Yes, because Ben kept calling him out and saying, when are you going to bring me over so I can show you what a real champion is? Something like that.
Now, I don't know if he's still blocked, but over the weekend, Ben Askren tweeted to Dana White with a screenshot on his phone that he was blocked by Dana White.
Yes, because Dana would continuously say he could not come to the UFC. He's too boring of a fighter. Something in that variation. Not exact quotes. But it was something that Askren, you put anybody in front of him, he takes down and he just, literally just mauls. I mean, you could say he kind of just lays and dominates position, but he does the same thing George St. Pierre used to do.
And like we said, this is the shocking and completely out of left field situation because it's never happened before. But kudos to Ben Askren for taking this and all the attention the MMA community is giving this and calling out everyone short of us three on the panel.
Yes, because Askren knows he now has the spotlight on him.
Oh, yeah.
And if you've been sleeping under wherever you've been sleeping, I can't even put into words how good of a fighter he is. And you want to talk about grapplers versus grapplers. I need Khabib versus Askren at 165 and just, I don't care. It could be the most boring fight in the world, but you want to see the two best grapplers in MMA, go at it.
I mean, I kind of want to see Askren's idea for a fight where it's him versus the Diaz brothers. He fights the one in even rounds and he fights the other one in odd rounds. I kind of want that to happen. I know it'll never happen, but man, I want to see it.
But he's that guy, though. He's that guy. He does not care. He will literally go in there against whoever you face. He's not somebody that ducks anybody.
Right.
And it's wild to me to see that he's finally in the UFC, because before he was in the UFC, if you follow the sport as much as I do and you follow the other organizations, he's always been a top name. Always. But to see him finally get into the UFC and to see Dana go back on, I don't want to say he went back on his word, but he did say, I was never going to bring him in because he's not a guy that moves the needle. To see him in the UFC now is mind-blowing to me. And obviously, to see who he's going to go up against, this is just nuts because there's so many different possibilities he can go up against. And obviously, they said he's going to get a top 5 fighter when he comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. At 170, who do we see him fighting his first fight?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the 170 weight class. Of course, your champion is Tyron Woodley, and then the rankings are as follows. Colby Covington is number 1. He is the interim champion. Number 2 is Darren Till. 3 is Rafael Dos Anjos. 4 is Stephen Thompson. And 5 is Robbie Lawler. I mean, there's one obvious one jumping out, but I'll save that one because I know somebody else wants to talk about it. But, I mean, the only other one sticking out to me really is Robbie Lawler.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, yeah, the one that's sticking out to me is Colby Covington.
Yeah.
I mean, that just, like you were saying, Pat, it just writes itself. I mean, the promo, especially coming off the heat, the overall just fire that was the Khabib Conor fight with the passion and the trash talking and the drama and everything. I mean, UFC, they're probably the hottest that they are right now coming off of that fight. Why not capitalize on the controversy of this guy coming in and letting Colby be like, why do I have to fight you? I don't need to fight you. Who are you? That type of stuff.
The press conferences, if these two end up fighting, the press conferences that would ensue, would this be the closest thing MMA would have had to the press conferences and trash talk that Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor had?
Yes, without question. Because I tell you what, you give Askren a microphone, you expect fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me personally, okay, if I have to take somebody that's currently ranked in this division, all right, he's not going to fight Woodley. They train at the same camp. They were both Duke Rufus guys.
Right.
So Askren and Woodley, you're not going to see fight outside of a gym. That's out the window. He's not going to fight Darren Till because I'll tell you what, he will run through Darren Till.
Yeah.
Darren Till has not shown me enough wrestling defense.
All due respect.
All due respect. I like Till, but Askren would take him down and he will never get back up.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Thompson would be a good matchup, just for stylistic, but I still think Askren takes him down and doesn't let him up.
Yep.
It's tough. I would love to see him fight Robbie Lawler because Lawler can do some wrestling and Lawler will stand in there and he'll throw some hands with him. But if I have to take just my definitive ODPH guess, George St. Pierre.
Okay.
You want to talk about your big money fight, your big legacy fight? Let me throw this at you. GSP, long time known for his grappling skill. He is pound for pound in his prime, was the guy for grappling in the UFC.
Oh, yeah.
You have Habib, who is at 155, and for him to come up to do the weight class thing, okay, it would be a little tough, but GSP is a traditional 170 guy. He went up to 185 once. There's some nonsense he wants to do at 155. I don't see it happening. I'm sorry. Just save that for a rainy day. I see this happening, that Askren comes in there, and if he takes down GSP and he whoops GSP.
Oh, boy.
Now, note how I say that. He whoops him. Like, he puts on a clinic. How do you think that solidifies his legacy? And then you have to give him a title shot.
Yeah.
And then if he's not going to fight Woodley, Covington's the guy.
I'll say if Askren beats GSP, no matter what way it is, any way he beats GSP, the promo he's going to cut with Joe Rogan in that octagon after the fight is going to be legendary.
Oh, it's going to get wild. Like, he gets an open microphone and just, this is the years that he has literally called out every single fighter he can.
Yeah.
I'd find Nick Diaz, wherever he is, to come back and fight at 170, because Nick would step up and fight him. And,
yeah.
I mean, that's what you need. You don't...
Either of the Diaz boys.
Either way, I mean, Askren coming in finally to the UFC. And like I say, don't expect huge knockouts.
No.
He's not a striker. He is probably the best wrestler on the planet in MMA.
I mean, ground and pound could be fun to watch too.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to take him down and he's just going to maul. Like, it's crazy to see because everybody knows it's coming.
Well, because there's the difference too between the ground and pound where you're stalling, you're covering the mouth and you're positioning and everything, which can be kind of slow. But I mean, the ground and pound, guy, that's fun.
Well, it's just like I say, it's wild for me to hear that Dana's finally let him in after years of saying that he wouldn't bring him in. And it's just because Dana has always not been a fan of, the guys that he says, quote unquote, lay and pray. He's always been, he wants exciting fights. I get that as a promoter.
You got to make money.
You want the highlights on YouTube. You don't want to see somebody lying on top of somebody else and just, just dominating them in that sense that nothing's happening for 15 to 25 minutes. I mean, that's not going to move a needle.
I think obviously the rise in popularity for Khabib has probably maybe steered the ship a little bit differently as far as what they're looking for in a fighter.
Maybe, because the thing is with Khabib, he has shown that he can strike with the best of them. You look at the Barbosa fight. Mm-hmm. That was, like, to me, that was probably his scariest performance.
Well, I mean, the game changer in the Conor fight was that right hand.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, because now that he's learned striking, or so it seems like, or now he's using it, that's mind-blowing. I know I've said that many times this segment. I don't care. Mind-blowing to see that now he can strike. And if Askren, he does train with Showtime Pettis at Duke Rufus's camp. So you're trying to tell me that he doesn't know how to just do some striking? I'm sure he does.
He just doesn't need to use it.
He just doesn't need to use it. But like I said, for his first fight in, they're going to make a splash, and they're going to put him against somebody top 5. Don't see it being until... I could see Wonder Boy, but I don't know if they would actually do that for stylistic reasons. I think Robbie Lawler would be a good fight for him. And
I think Robbie Lawler is that good, first-time fighter guy, like almost to do a wrestling thing, NXT with Cassius Ohno. He's that good intro fight, that it's going to be enough buzz. You got the veteran, Lawler can go. And like you said, he has both styles. He can stand up and he can wrestle. So it'd be a good, solid matchup.
Yeah, I think that would be an exciting fight to see happen. And then we have not even gotten into the biggest thing of the weekend, which is UFC 230. Mm-hmm. So let alone, and final thought about the trade, it's crazy to see happen, but good luck to DJ and One Championship. Mm-hmm. They're making some moves with Eddie Alvarez right now, getting signed there as well. And for Ben Askren, just wait for the promos, folks, because they're going to be legendary. And as we said, UFC 230 is this weekend at MSG, as we are taping. 2 great co-main events.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Chris Weidman is facing Jacare Souza, who is coming in to replace Luke Rockhold, who was injured and had to pull out of the fight. Thoughts around the panel on this one?
I mean, it's Chris Weidman in New York. It's right in his backyard. Wouldn't count the guy out for anything. Kudos to Souza for stepping up on the fight. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's always crazy to hear guys coming in on these short camps, coming in and taking fights, and just what the ability that they're able to do without having a full camp. It's just really impressive because obviously we've had people on before talking about their camps and everything and the extent and the level that they go to as far as what they need to do to prepare for a fight, and that's on the mid level. These are these are UFC your main star fighters that have, 8 weeks to get ready for a big-time fight. So, good for him. Obviously, Weidman, New York guy, obviously you're going to root for the hometown guys. So, it'll be a good fight, though.
It definitely will be. I mean, this is something that Weidman definitely needs this fight a lot because he has come off, some very bad fights. I mean, he did lose to Luke Rockhold, Yoel Romero, and Gregor Mousasi. He did beat Calvin Gastelum, though, in his last fight. But he's been having some time off now, so to see him come back and see what kind of, where he is in fighter years, so to speak, that's going to be the true test because Souza has been active. And this one is going to be a true telling sign, too, because this is going to be a highly contested fight at 185.
No slouches there.
No, definitely not. So this is going to be something that really is going to be something to watch and see. And, I mean, obviously, if I got to take somebody, I'm going to kind of take Souza. I mean, I'm rooting for Weidman. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But Souza has been a little more active, and definitely I think he needs this fight a little more than Weidman does, per se. This is going to be two, I don't want to say desperate fighters, but when fighters really need something to prove, this is going to truly be a good test. And then going into the main event.
Oh, boy.
Daniel Cormier defending the heavyweight title against Derek Lewis. Thoughts around the panel on this one?
Boy, man, there are going to be some chiclets flying on this one. I have no idea how this is going to end. Usually we talk heavyweights, we talk, well, it ain't going the distance and it ain't going to be a submission. Man, I don't know. You got to give me a quarter and toss this one up on it. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to guess Daniel Cormier in some capacity.
All right, fair enough, Coach.
I mean, I would think for Cormier, this would be smart to let this try and go into the later rounds. I mean, obviously, Lewis's cardio is not necessarily the highest priority for him, and I mean, coming off of a great fight on the Conor Khabib card, he was definitely getting pretty tired towards those later rounds. So if I'm Cormier, I'm trying to push this pace. I'm also trying to extend it to the later rounds. I would think Cormier would probably try and take it to the ground. It would be his strongest suit to try and get those hands off of his face at any cost. So I would think taking this fight to the ground using his wrestling skills, especially obviously superior wrestling skills with Cormier. So I would probably try and take this to the ground. I just think, as much as Lewis is probably the underdog and going to play that card, I think DC's just got too much experience, so I probably got to go with DC.
Derek Lewis is a fighter that a lot of people do get behind. He does cut very unique promos after his fights, to say the least. And he's somebody that you really don't think is going to win a fight, and then somehow he pulls it out because he has that much power in his hands. Daniel Cormier, obviously coming off against the super fight against Stipe Miocic, and he has Brock Lesnar lurking sometime next year on his mind. And let alone if you want to talk about John Jones and him fighting, I don't see that fight happening. So
no.
I'm not even addressing that. Cormier obviously wants to get to Lesnar. That is the big payday. So is he going to look past Derek Lewis? No. Does Derek Lewis have a shot? Yeah, he has a shot. He has to knock Cormier out. Now, Cormier has taken many shots over the years. In fact, he survived Anthony Rumble Johnson landing one of the hardest right hands I've ever seen thrown in a UFC fight ever.
Yeah, that happened.
So can he withstand Derek Lewis and a punching barrage? Remains to be seen. Because if there was one thing from the Miocic fight, if Lewis can somehow get him into like a dirty boxing situation where he can land uppercuts at a short range, Cormier could be in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
But the game plan. Cormier is going to want to end this early, and he's going to end this with a takedown and use his wrestling to get the W. I see this happening. I think Derek Lewis either needs to pull off a crazy knockout, or he's going to need to somehow survive 5 rounds of Cormier's wrestling. I just don't see it happening. As much as Lewis winning would be one of the biggest underdog stories, I think, in MMA history. Not the biggest ever, but it'd be up there. I just see Cormier winning this one, second round submission of some sort. Then becomes the hype for Brock Lesnar. Now, will Lesnar be there?
To be seen.
Arguably, no. There's a WWE event going on that he would have to really make some...
He'd have to take the mother of all red eyes.
Yeah, he'd have to make a big travel from where the fight is taking place for him. Can he make it there in time? I would suspect the UFC has a plan in place that they really want to hype that up again. I know Daniel Cormier wants to do that.
Can you imagine if Cormier is like fully expecting him to be there, and he's looking around, and for whatever reason, Lesnar's not there. Can you imagine if, like, you know, because for those of you who follow wrestling know Paul Heyman's, you know, Brock Lesnar's hype guy. Can you imagine if Heyman came out and just started talking to him?
You know, I would.
I'm spitballing here, but I'm just thinking of it off the top of my head.
There's two things. The one, the wrestling fan in me would think is really cool, but the MMA guy in me would be like, why are we blurring the lines?
Right.
I mean, to me, it would probably make more sense that they would know going in whether Lesnar's going to be there or not. I think that would be the biggest, you know, kind of backstage thing would be DC would either know or not know, because I don't think they would just spring that on him after a fight.
They probably have a plan in place.
Yeah,
like a plan A, he's there, plan B, he's not there. And then, like, you know, I'm guessing some point mid-afternoon, the day of the fight, they will know if he's going to be there or not.
I mean,
and they'll go to Cormier and go, listen, he's on his way. He'll be here by the time your fight rolls around. Or, yeah, he's not going to be here.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't think that this is something, because you're not going to build towards this fight without having some sort of back promotion. And obviously, like Ken has said before, it's, you know, his probably next big fight that UI as far as happening in the UFC right now. So, I mean, they're going to want to build towards this. And it's just, the problem is timeline.
Yeah.
Because now you've got, for, you know, WWE people, I mean, you got the WrestleMania coming up, which, I mean, Brock is not necessarily contracted for, but by all intents and purposes, I'm going to imagine that WWE is going to throw a bucket full of money at him with, you know, Roman Reigns obviously on, you know, not going to be there. And then you got SummerSlam. So you got two of your biggest events coming up right now, right in the prime seasons for UFC events.
I've already said since day one, I am fully banking on this, barring any injury. This is going to be Super Bowl weekend in Vegas.
Probably.
This is arguably, wherever they have the UFC card, this is where I fully suspect you're going to see Cormier versus Lesnar.
Probably.
And like I said, unless an injury happens, because that could happen, that you're going to see that fight.
I could see wherever the Super Bowl is this year, because I can't remember off the top of my head. I can see him putting it in in the backyard there, wherever the Super Bowl is.
Yeah, because I know they usually do a big UFC card.
Right. But like, let's just say if it's in Houston, wherever, I could see him putting it in Houston someplace.
Well, it makes sense because you want to make that a big event, especially
biggest card of the year. Where better to put it than the biggest city that weekend?
Well, no, there's just a lot of ways to make a lot of money that weekend. So for that being said, I fully see Cormier versus Lesnar, barring any injury or something weird like that happening.
What would that be? That would be January, right? So what
February,
February,
like first weekend of February.
So we're November right now. So I mean, yeah, as long as he avoids any lengthy, after fight suspensions or barring an injury, that could be a realm of possibility.
And then I see win, lose or draw. He's done with the MMA. Cormier is.
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
that's the last fight.
He's been talking about it, hinting about it for long enough. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that he's done. To me, I still am sitting on the Jones train. I still think he wants that fight. I still think he wants to cement that win.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of different ways it can go with, but Jones has to survive Gustafsson.
Right. Sure.
December 29th. So, I mean, because obviously if he goes through a war like he did the last time he fought Gus, Jones is not going to be ready to fight anytime soon.
No, not at all. Which that would make DC available come summer.
If they want to go that route, which, I mean, we've seen many times fighters come out of retirement for the right amount of money. Not to say it's not going to happen, but focusing on this card, though, UFC 230 is going to be a very, very good fight to watch, so make sure to check it out on pay-per-view or wherever you watch the UFC. We gave you our predictions. Let us know what yours are for UFC this weekend. We want to know. Hashtag it up, ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is the King of Lyle, Luke Visengard, Gladius 205 champion, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH. Pat, kick us off with that local minute.
Well, got to talk a little Binghamton Devils. Of course, last week they went 1-2, unfortunately. So, a little rough week, but they can bounce back with it this week. They are playing the Phantoms Friday, November 2nd at home. Game time 7:05. Saturday they go on the road playing those same Phantoms, and then they move away back next week, November 7th against the Sound Tigers. Looking at the standings, they are currently sitting in 4th place in the North Division with a record of 4-5. They are right in it, though, folks. So season's early. They got a chance.
Absolutely. I went down to the game on Friday night with Nostradamus himself, Edwin Fortunato. Mm-hmm. So we saw them take on Charlotte, and it was a very highly contested game. I got to say that. The Devils were scrapping there. Corey Schneider was there on the rehab assignment. They did lose in overtime 4-3. But the Devils were hanging in there, and they're definitely fun to watch. So if you want more information, check out BinghamtonDevils.com. But that was not the only Binghamton sports going on this weekend. Binghamton Bulldogs came back in a big way at the new, dare I say, is it Dog Pound 2.0?
It have to be, yeah.
It would have to be there at Davis College if you were in the 607. And dare I say, now this season there was a lot of question marks going into the season because obviously they're missing a couple big names from last year's ABA Final Four roster. But you didn't see any slowdown from the Bulldogs. Chris Cartwright played like a man possessed out there.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about somebody that is like the heart and soul of the Bulldogs. He definitely was refusing to lose that opening night, scoring 37 points, and just obviously took over the game. They had a lot of different working parts going on. David Hay had a great game too as well. And I tell you what, the Bulldogs were extremely fun to watch going into it. Mike McCoy had 14 points. Moni Anderson had 20, especially some clutch threes late in the second half. So the Bulldogs, 5th ranked in the nation out of 143 teams, won 145-136. They're back at it at Scranton this Saturday, but they're back home in the Dog Pound. Sunday, November 4th against Oneonta, 6 p.m. start. BinghamtonBulldogs.com for more information. And if you want to check out a blog about the Bulldogs, go to ParlorCitySports.com. So why don't we get into those round of the bases, Pat?
Well, give a little congratulations to the Boston Red Sox for winning the World Series. Enough of that. I'm going to need mouthwash if I keep talking about that. But with baseball season over, of course, hot stove season, baby. Possibly more exciting if you're a big baseball fan than the regular season is because there is a lot of free agents going into this free agent season and a lot of teams that could be making some splashes. So here's some big names you should look out for that aren't named Manny Machado or Bryce Harper because everyone, I think, at this point knows they're free agents. Looking at the offensive side of the ball, Josh Donaldson is a free agent. Second baseman Daniel Murphy. Third baseman Adrian Beltre. Outfielder Andrew McCutcheon. And then DH Nelson Cruz are definitely some names that jump out. Switching over to the defensive side of the ball, specifically pitchers, Clayton Kershaw could be a free agent if he opts out. Now that's if. No real word if he's going to opt out or not. But you've got Dallas Keuchel, CC Sabathia, J.A. Happ, left-handed reliever Andrew Miller, right-handed closer Craig Kimbrell, left-handed starter Gio Gonzalez, Matt Harvey, and Jeurys Familia, all notable names you should keep an eye out for.
Definitely something to watch. I'm deferring my rounding the base subject because I'm still being a salty Yankee fan over Boston's win in the World Series. Coach, what you got?
The NFL trade deadline is tomorrow.
Ooh.
This is the biggest probably trade deadline in the NFL in history. There are a lot of people looking to be moved, a lot of people requesting to be moved, a lot of people begging to be moved. So it'll be very interesting tomorrow noon to see, who does get shipped out or who stays. Obviously, the New York Giants are looking for a fire sale, so it'll be interesting to see who departs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of moving parts going on for the NFL trade deadline. It's so weird that we're even talking NFL trades mid-season. This is just such not NFL talk that you hear about every year. I mean, there's always like a trade maybe here and there, but not as much like highly anticipated deadline moves.
Yeah, with the way that the salary cap and player contracts are structured, it's very, very difficult to find two pieces that move and work together. Mm-hmm. But here we are in 2018. What a year.
It's a wild, wild season, folks. So let's get into those locks and leaps. Pad, why don't you start us off?
Well, I'm going to start out with my lock. There's one game I could go with. I think everyone knows what it is. But that, to me, it's low-hanging fruit. I won't go for it. Instead, I'm going to turn and look at the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions game. Minnesota is currently a 5.5-point favorite at home. Game time, 1 o'clock. So I'm definitely looking at Minnesota to really win that game and possibly be dominating fashion. We'll see. You never know. And then switching to my leap, I'm kind of floating on this one. I'm not really sure what I was going to go with, but I looked at the Houston Texans at the Denver Broncos. Currently, Denver is a 2.5-point favorite at home, but man, it's just something about those Texans. I don't know what it is. I think they're going to get the win out, though.
I tell you what, they're a fun team to watch when they're on point. So seeing them go against the stout Denver defense, that's going to be something to check out. Coach, what you got?
Pad, thank you for leaving that fruit because I will grab it and have a little snack because I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs against the Browns. 8 points. Give me it. Cover it. Lock it up. Take it.
Cover it by like Alabama standards, which
this is
4
Alabama
scores.
Versus Georgia, Southern, West, East, Mississippi State. Okay?
Yeah, this ain't going to be pretty.
This is going to be bad. Sorry, Cleveland. And my leap is I'm gonna go with the Rams.
Oh,
1.5-point dogs in the Superdome.
This is true. The Rams are dogs.
You know, I'll take that. Also low hanging fruit, and they're gonna cover that and probably win it outright.
Well, let's see, folks. I mean, yeah, all signs say I should take Kansas City.
Yeah,
all of them do, but no,
This fruit is very good.
I'm not gonna do it. You know what? I'm sitting here looking at the games, and I'm just going, you know what? I can't do it with good faith. I really, really can't. So I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers on Thursday night. 3-point favorites over the Oakland Raiders.
Okay.
Because I think that this game could be a lot of different things.
Ugly.
Yeah, ugly could be one.
Yep.
But you know what? It's the battle for the Bay. I think there'll be some, hometown pride going on between the, rival teams.
Battle for second place in the draft.
Either way, you want to spill it. I think it's going to happen. And for my leap, see, this is kind of wild to me, especially after what happened on Sunday. The Steelers are 3-point dogs going to Baltimore.
Huh, that's interesting.
So I'm jumping on this one, even though I'm not going to lie, the Bears and Bills are a pick 'em right now.
Yeah.
You have no idea how badly I'm eyeing that one. But no, I can't go on my own team. That's, Ken M's rules to picking on sports teams.
Say there was a reason I didn't touch the New England Green Bay one with a 39.5-foot pole.
No, but you know what? I'm honestly was thinking that one. I'm not going to lie. I was taking the Packers. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to take the Packers.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, let's roll some dice here, folks. Green Bay, underdogs going into Foxborough. No fear. Is Aaron Rodgers. Enough said.
12v12.
I'll say, if you caught the Sunday Night Football promo, that's what Michael Jordan wanted to see, GOAT versus GOAT, which kudos to that crew. That was amazing.
That was very well done.
Yeah. I mean, they're 6.5-point dogs, but you know what? Let's go roll those dice. Let us know what you think, though, folks. Hashtag it up, ODPH. So for Coach Duffy.
Good night and good luck.
For Padawan J.
Thank you.
That's all we got for this week, folks. I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH. We'll see you next time.